Patchwork party today reminds me of a cupcake. That's right, block 3 is a tangerine churn dash with a mixed frosty 9-patch in the corner. Oh, that sounds delicious. Let's get started. And the party goes on. That's right. It is block number 3. Welcome, welcome everybody to the patch party. Now the pattern was created by a fantastic friend, Leila Gardunia. Thank you, Leila, again for letting me teach this pattern. And I hope you've all been following along since the beginning. But if you have not, let me deep breath, slow down. My name is Rob Appell. Welcome to Making It Fun, everybody. I'm super excited you are here with me and the rest of the Michael Miller family. We're going to have a blast today sewing on block number 3. Now, like I was starting to say, this pattern is called Patch Party. It is by Leila Gardunia, and you can find it hopefully in your local quilt shop. You can also grab it on her website, and all of that information is right there in the description below for everybody. I'm going to walk you through the steps. You'll have all of the math on your pattern once you have the pattern. Now this one is super fun and easy. Some of the blocks you're making 2. Today we're making 4, and like I said, I'll walk you through all of one of them. And we do have, before we get started today, a quick pro tip from the designer herself. So Leila, take it away.
Hey, when you're making this block, there's just one thing I want you to be careful of. It's your 1/4-inch seams. These pieces are super small. This finishes at 1 inch. That means that if your seams are wider than a 1/4 inch, this little patch unit could end up being too small for all the other pieces it needs to fit in with. So just be careful. Measure your 1/4-inch seam if you need to make sure that it's right, and you should be all fine.
And that is right. The 1/4-inch seam is really, really important. So today, not bigger, not smaller, 1/4 inch. If you saw one of the first videos, we were also recommending the use of the little edge guide on the 1/4-inch foot. And I'm not exactly sure, but even in my prep work, as I was working, one of my strips, I think I cut a little narrow. So I was challenged, like Leila said, in getting these 9-patch corners back together. If anything gets too small, it can be wild. So what we're doing as the pre-start, the prep work, we are going to build 2 different styles of strip sets. Hey, just another quick reminder, remember to save your large pieces as scraps because you're going to need them on the end for block number 11. One strip set will use your really wide and long background rectangle with your solid, and the solid here, excuse me, I guess I am going too fast again already today. This is Michael Miller's Cotton Couture, so this is the tangerine color, this is the bright white, and we'll also be using the beautiful Fairy Frost from Michael Miller. This color is also tangerine, so some of the fun and the warm-up jokes today, of course. So we're building 2 different strip sets. We have a background and a tangerine Cotton Couture, and we also have another strip set. Now these were longer at one point. I've already made some of the blocks, and this one is again background Cotton Couture and then the Fairy Frost strip in the center. So once you have stitched these together, and you'll make several of these, then we're going to go ahead and subcut these down. And when I'm subcutting them down, I'm going to need to make a bunch of them, so I just kind of like to focus at one point and go ahead and just keep my eye on the same spot on the ruler and just start working my way through. And we're just going to cut a bunch of these down. And as you know from the information in your pattern, the subcuts are the same width, right, for both sets, regardless of how their construction is. And now this is going to be our middle part, so you'll need 1 of these and 2 of these, just like this, for each of the blocks. There are 4 because they're the corners. You're doing 4, so a total of 16 of these today. And what I like to do, I was just really strip piecing in the prep work myself. So I grabbed my pieces, and as I folded them over to make sure that my seams nest, that's the first part you want to do. Make sure that those seams really nest right there. And the way that this was really easy today is I was pressing in all of the prep work to the dark side. So all of my seams went over to the tangerine color fabrics. Now with my 1/4-inch seam allowance, I'm just going to go ahead and come on through here, making sure everything lines up nice. Watching to make sure that we are, like I said, not too big and not too small in our 1/4 inch today. And another very good habit is to return to your ironing board before adding on the next piece. So for these ones, I'm going to press away from the center where the fairy frost is over to the corners. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And I'm going to drop on another one. And then the only thing you need to do is make sure with your arrangement that your tangerine color cotton couture are on opposite sides. I do not want you to build that. That's probably a block for another day. Okay, we're going to do this one today. Fold it over. Again, nest those seams. Head over to the sewing machine. And as I start to sew this now, I will just remind you that we're going to do a bunch of them so we can also start to chain piece. And finish this out real nice and quick for you. And once you have all 4 of what we're considering our 9 patches made, oh, that didn't go very good. There you go. Once you have all 4 of those made up, let's just go ahead and finish our frosting the outside of our block first today. And we also had some of these medium-sized rectangles, and we're going to build these. And what we need to make sure is that we have one of our solid cotton couture blocks touching. And really, this is going to be the layout like this, so they touch on both sides. So we're going to make 2 of these sets right now, making our life real easy. And what I'm going to do, and if I had any problems where maybe my block got a little smaller than it was supposed to, it has to fit into this shape right here perfectly. So then I might have to cheat a little bit, or I can see like right over here, that's going to leave just a little shorter, less than 1/4 inch seam allowance. But I can account for that at the needle when I'm doing my sewing. So I'm just going to go ahead and add the 9 patch to one of my rectangles. And this is actually what I was calling the frosting, but it's the border for your block. And the center piece is large enough that you can just go ahead and cut thread, rotate, and then just as the reminder, you just want to make sure that you have your tangerine cotton couture on the same side, lay it right on there, and go ahead and drop your foot and add on that other 1/4 inch seam. I love Leila's patterns because they're very well written, the cutting instructions and the sewing instructions, and they are really all based off of the accuracy of our 1/4 inch. So it's a great way to practice. And if you're new to quilting, I don't want you to be intimidated by that. You can do a lot of different things. You can add, like we were saying, the edge guide onto your foot. You can mark your machine. What you want to make sure in this case is that it really is a 1/4 inch. It's not too big, it's not too small, it fits in there just right. Goldilocks style, and you'll do fine. You may want to build a small portion and measure it all out following your pattern, making sure it is accurate. And then once you are on, you don't have to worry about it again. And maybe you've heard it in a class, or you've seen in a pattern somewhere, always start and finish the quilt on the same machine. There's a lot of truth to that. It's really just make sure you're accurate with your 1/4 inch. But that's why, as I just told you, get your machine dialed in and then make all of these blocks on the same machine and you won't be concerned again. So we'll be moving on from the concern from the 1/4 inch, but I'm just going to line this up. And you know what? Here's a great example right here. I can see that this corner block got a little bit small. I told you one of my strips was a little narrow. I think I must have miscut it a little. So I'm just going to leave this. I'm going to keep this edge lined up perfect. When I come over here, I can account for that with the next time I put on the seam. Promise, I've already done 3 of them. And then once I get both of these border strips made, now what we want to do is we want to press from the block into the actual seam here. So I'm pressing from the block into the rectangle and from the block into the rectangle here. And I'm just going to set that one aside as well as this one. And we're going to start building out that churn dash center, which is super simple, really fun block. And of course, I've got the steps for you. Okay, so like I said, set those aside. What we're going to first need is 4 half square triangles. We're going to make these today by using 2 pieces with our background color and our tangerine cotton couture. I have drawn a line, and for those of you who have been in the comments below telling me to stop using a Sharpie, I agree. Why not? So I have a chalk pencil with a really cool blue in there, so it is not the Sharpie. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the feedback, and there's nothing that I can disagree with. Sharpies could be damaging to some fabrics. So at any rate, here we go. We're on chalk, and I've got a straight line. Now that straight line is a guideline today. It's not a sewing line. So what I like to do is cheat. So now my edge guide is actually on the other side of the line. So I'm giving myself a little extra seam allowance as I lower that presser foot and just start rocking and rolling through here. Again, these can be chain pieced as well, but let me just show you how to do one of these now. I'm going to come down to the end, drop the needle, rotate through, and then as I put my edge guide down, it is again on the other side. So I'm making a little bit less than a 1/4 inch seam allowance now. These ones don't matter because we're going to trim them to the right size. This is just a great, fast, and easy way of doing it. But because we're going to trim them down, I've given myself a little extra to trim. Then for that trimming, we're just going to go ahead and first go ahead and cut the line through here with both of them. So that will now yield 4 of what we call a half square triangle. And I'm going to go ahead and press these to the dark side. I'm going to hold that tangerine cotton couture in the air. Throw my iron in the air like I just don't care. Something like that. I don't know. So at any rate, we are partying. This is a patch party. I'm sorry if that was inappropriate. And then the trick to the old trim down is you want to use a diagonal line, the 45-degree line on your ruler, set it up so that the diagonal matches here. And the first trim, I'm actually going to come up in here once I find my diagonal, and I'm really going to shave. So I have 2 tricks for you right now. First trick was that, using the diagonal line to shave and square, make sure that it's a beautiful half square triangle. Second is I'm going to cut from the big part of my ruler off the corner, and I'm saving the tip of my blade that way, tip of my ruler. So off the wide part of my ruler to the corner, I'm not starting at the corner, and that can really damage your blade and the rotary cutter. Okay, so then that was the first half. Rotate, really quick. Party time again. Now you find your mark. You want to find exactly where your corner marker is. Run your diagonal. See, you can still see that diagonal. And now I've got a bunch to trim. Super easy. And again, from the long side of the ruler, out the corner side of the ruler, and there it is, a perfect half square triangle now that we can reutilize. So let me knock the rest of these down real quick and show you how to put that center together. Now that those are all cut down, we should have, like I said, 4 of our half square triangles. And they should be the same size as of our other squares that we pre-cut. So we should have 1 per square. So you had about 4 of those, I guess, of the fairy frost. And then you're going to have 4 more of your background fabrics, all the same size. And this is going to form that churn dash block. Now you can go either direction you want. So I'm just going to go top to bottom in what we'll call now columns. So I'm going to sew one of these to the fairy. I like to start in the center. Just sew it to the fairy frost. Maintaining that 1/4 inch seam allowance, everything's based on these same mathematics. And now I do not believe that these center parts are large enough to put on both sides, but I do believe still in chain piecing. So I can grab this one and fold it over. Just remember which side was your seam. Sew it on. Grab another one, fold it over. Remembering which side was my seam, and sew it on so that I have saved myself a few steps, a little bit of time, and really a bunch of thread, because then when I cut that there's just a teeny bit of thread. I can actually use the thread cutter on the machine to open up those blocks again. We're going to go back to the iron and always pressing to the darkest fabric when possible. So hold that dark fabric in the air like you just don't. Yeah. And then we're going to go ahead, fold it over with the iron. And again, same on these little half square triangle to solid combos. Push it on over, Orange in the air, push it on over, but just gently pushing it, nothing crazy, but I do have a light steam in the iron too, and that really does help set the fabrics nicely. The other thing that helps the fabrics behave later is to not move them until they've cooled or chilled. We're talking party style, right? So don't forget where you're at though. That was there because I'm going to put that back together there. And then I don't believe I pointed it out, and I'm really hoping I'm correct at the moment. Let's check the design wall. Yep. The points touch to the center. So the points are going to touch to the center there. See? Points touching to the center. So let's go ahead and finish out the assembly, and let's go ahead and stay with that chain piecing format we're doing. And again, let's free these blocks and take them over to the ironing board. I'm going to press back into that orange, so actually the opposite direction. And what's going to be pretty cool, maybe I can flip it over so you can see the seams as we're coming back to the center cam there, top cam, is I was again pressing into the orange here, so watch what happens. I'm actually pre-nesting the seams for us. Hopefully you can see that. I know sometimes when I film with these bright white fabrics, there is a little bit extra exposure in the cameras and it makes it so it's a little harder for you to see from a distance. Let me tell you, it looks great. It looks absolutely great. What I'm trying to point out here, once again, is that the seams are now crisscross applesauce, making our life very easy as we get ready to reassemble our columns into this block. So I'm just going to grab one, lining up those nested seams. I'm so excited about that right now. And then once I get over the first nested seam, I'm going to make sure that the next nested seam does line up. These blocks are much larger than those center small ones we were doing on the 9 patches, so we can make some adjustments that might be beneficial, AKA line your points up, if you want to, only if you want to. Okay, let's take again a moment and press, because I just want to make sure, and I'm pressing outward into those solid colors. Flipping, flopping, over to the 1/4 inch seam we go. We're going to iron this center out, and the center churn dash block is all complete. Super easy here. That's what it looks like. Now, the easiest way to do this is we're just going to add on first the 2 background rectangles, because we've already pre-built the rest of our background or our borders. So let's do this now. We're going to put on one piece. Center is large enough. I can just rotate out the machine, drop that second piece on. Now this time we're going to press from the center block out into those add-on rectangles we just put on, and that will actually effectively nest these little 9 patchers we've got over there, and it is super, super simple. And you know, the cool thing is it's all written right here in the instructions for you. It's right here in the info. And you know, gosh, there's so many different ways you can enjoy this pattern. You can actually purchase it as a full pattern, or you can participate with Block of the Month. Either way, super great, and we're just super excited. Thank you again, is what I'm trying to say to Leila, for including us, being a pattern partner with us on this, and sewing this on, lining up these seam allowances on both sides. Don't get going so fast that you put the last one on incorrectly. Remember, the tangerine cotton couture is pointing right back in, touching in at that center seam there on the center block. So line that up, making sure you have the right orientation, and finish it off. All right, let's press it over. And again, I was just pressing away from center as I was finishing most of these, just because it's kind of easier, more strategic for me. And again, looks terrific, super excited and happy with the results. There we are. Like I said, there's that churn dash with the awesome 9-patch fairy frosting in the corners. And again, super excited to be participating in the block of the month patch party. Now, if this was the first one you're catching, we have block 1 and block 2. They're already here on YouTube for all of you to enjoy. As I said, in the description below, you can pick up the pattern. There's links there for you. I am doing the launch on the first Wednesday of each month. So we'll be doing block 4. If I remember correctly, it's one of the ones in this quilt, and I think you're going to love it as well. So until the first Wednesday of the month anyways, I'm just going to say it. The party goes on. Hey, we'll see you, everybody. Thanks for being here. Catch you next time. Wow, you are still there. Thanks for sticking with me till the end of the video. I know, I get a little long-winded sometimes. But if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you check out a few of the other ones we've created. I think they're terrific. And of course, please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the little bell to be notified. I don't want you to miss a moment of the fun. Stay safe and happy sewing.